What if the gates of freedom were not opened by luck, nor revealed by the applause of others, but forged within the furnace of your own discipline, hammered into being by the unyielding rhythm of your decisions and the unwavering cadence of your daily acts? You stand at the edge of a vast landscape where every horizon is a summons, every breath a renewal, and every heartbeat a drumbeat that tells you the truth you have long suspected. Freedom is not a distant treasure to be hunted in distant lands. It is a state you awaken to when you master yourself with a stubborn, joyous, uncompromising precision. In the long arc of human achievement, the doors that swing open with ease are not the doors that lead to greatness. It is the door you push through by bending your will to a single, unshakable purpose. The door you unlock by aligning thought, feeling, and action into a single electric current. That door is called self-mastery. And self-mastery is the only real freedom because it places you above circumstance, above the weather of circumstance, above the shifting winds of circumstance's friends and foes alike. You are born with the potential to shape the currents of your life. You and you alone, with the raw material of your thoughts, the energy of your desires, and the discipline of your daily choices. The world broadcasts the illusion of freedom as a carnival of temptations. Bright signs promising shortcuts, glittering pathways that allure with the sound of immediate gratification. But every shortcut has a toll, and the toll is often paid not in coin, but in the currency of your future, your time, your health, your peace of mind, your capacity to serve the highest good you can conceive. Freedom that is not earned through mastery is a shadow that flickers in the corner, a rumor of power you imagine you have when you have only a momentary boost of sensation. The freedom you seek is not a possession you acquire. It is a responsibility you accept. It begins with one decision. This one, I will master myself. I will set a definite purpose that is bigger than the excuses of yesterday, and I will walk the path of disciplined action until the path itself becomes a living thing inside me. Let us speak plainly about what a definite purpose is, because a life without a definite purpose is a boat without a rudder, a ship adrift on a flat sea of wishful thinking. A definite purpose is not a vague longing or a passing aspiration. It is a compass whose needle cannot tremble, a lighthouse that never wavers, a destination you can point to in the darkest night and say, with your whole being, I will reach you whatever the cost. And this compass does not sit idle in your pocket. It is anchored to your very heartbeat, to your daily routines, to the whispers of your subconscious mind that remind you when to wake, what to do, and why you must endure. The moment you plant this purpose in the soil of your daily life, it begins to grow roots into your hours, your choices, your relationships, and your sense of time. The world will obtrude, the world will test you, and the world will tempt you to forget that you are here to become someone who does not merely dream, but translates dream into effect. Your definite purpose is the gravity that pulls you back from the cliff of distraction, the magnet that attracts the people whose minds vibrate in harmony with your own, the fuel that keeps your engine running when the night is long and the road is steep. In this realm of purpose, the mastermind becomes not a luxury but a necessity, because no one travels from ignition to ascent alone. You need a circle of minds that share your hunger for higher ground, a magnetic field of thought stronger than the gravity of doubt. The mastermind is not a mere club. It is a living amplifier of your intention, a chorus of disciplined voices that remind you of what you are becoming when you sometimes forget, a consortium of souls who will tell you the hard truth when your pride would rather hear a softer whisper. The mastermind multiplies your effective power, not because the others supply your strength, but because their presence expands your own capacity to think, to decide, and to act. They reflect your blind spots back to you, They draft the map you could not have seen. They help you to see that your vision is not a solitary flame, but a hearth where many coals burn brighter together. When you choose your circle with the care of a general choosing allies for a campaign of significance, you gain a force that can move mountains of resistance, a wind that can bend a stubborn forest of excuses, a cadence that makes your steps a march rather than a stumble. Yet even the mastermind would be nothing without the quiet, intimate ally you carry within. The subconscious mind, the silent partner who processes the world while you attend to the visible acts. The subconscious mind is not a mysterious reservoir to be exploited in a single stroke. It is the long, patient gardener who tends your seeds, waiting for the right amount of water, sunlight, and pruning. Your autosuggestion is the ritual by which you supply that garden with steady nourishment, not as a spell to conjure miracles, but as a disciplined practice to rewire belief at the deepest level. Think of autosuggestion as the daily ritual of reminding your own heart what it will accept as reality. It is the gentle hammer you wield on the anvil of belief, shaping your waking thoughts and your sleeping dreams into a single coherent creed. I am capable. I am worthy. I am moving toward a destiny that cannot be denied. It is not superstition. It is the science of persistence applied to the most intimate layers of your identity. As you repeat a truth until it becomes your reflex, your actions begin to align with your belief, and the alignment of belief with action creates a momentum that even gravity respects. But there is a price to self-mastery, a discipline that is not a cage but a bridge spanning between what you wish for and what you do, between the certainties you crave and the discomfort you will not avoid. The discipline of organized planning is that bridge. It is the living map that translates intention into coordinated action. This is not a dry exercise in checklists. It is a dynamic relationship between the conscious mind's clarity and the subconscious mind's receptivity. A conversation that proceeds with both urgency and reverence. You invest a certain portion of your day into a design, into a plan that respects the truth that time is the most precious currency you possess. You learn to steward time with the sternness of a banker who cannot tolerate a single wasted cent. And you understand that every decision you make, every opportunity you decline, is a loan you either repay with interest or default upon. Organized planning is the art of converting purpose into practice without friction, of turning intention into a sequence of acts that becomes second nature, of building a staircase that you walk up not as a character in a play, but as the author who will not abandon the plot at the crucial moment. And what is to be done when fear rises like fog upon the mind, threatening to obscure the summit you have vowed to ascend? Fear, which is real enough, is but another kind of weather to be anticipated, prepared for, and navigated with the steely certainty of a person who has decided there is no retreat. You will face fear, not by pretending it does not exist, but by naming it, facing it, and ultimately letting it serve as a compass that points toward your growth. Fear is fog that can be pierced when you bring your own light to bear. Your faith, your evidence, your daily acts of courage that prove to the world and to yourself that you will not yield. Faith, in this context, is not a momentary leap of hope, but a steady spiritual will that binds your belief to observable reality through persistent action. It is the faith of a miner who keeps digging even when the tunnel seems to cave in, because the rock of reality yields to the patient, repeated taps of a determined hammer. Let me tell you what the mountain of mastery looks like, and why it is worth every tremor you feel on the ascent. The mountain is not an ornament on the landscape. It is your own potential carved into a vertical challenge, a sculpture you must chisel away at with the chisel of effort and the mallet of resilience. Every inch upward is earned by a decision, by a choice that outruns the excuses your mind would offer if you allowed it to. The mind, that fertile workshop, is where your thoughts lay their bricks, and those bricks, laid with intention, create a structure of life that can endure the fiercest weather of doubt and opposition. Imagination is the architect of this ascent. The ability to see the peak not as a distant rumor, but as a tangible destination you can inhabit in your mind long before it becomes your physical, breathing reality. When you imagine clearly, you begin to design the world that will come into being. And as you design, you begin to enact the steps that will bring that world to life. In this grand undertaking, you will discover how the best laid plans require a living, breathing, flexible soul of action. Plan, yes, but live your plan. Let the plan breathe with you and adjust as the earth itself shifts under your feet. The plan is not a cage. It is a compass, a map, a set of guardrails on a road that must be traveled with zeal and patience. You must learn to ride the tension between certainty and chance, to hold the line when the wind roars, and to listen rather than react when the ground seems unstable. Specialized knowledge comes to you not only through isolated study, but through dialogue, through the exchange of ideas with those who share your hunger and with those who challenge you. It is a tool forged in collaboration, a blade sharpened by debates, experiments, failures, and refinements. You become better, not by hoarding knowledge, as if it were a treasure to guard against thieves of time, but by applying it, testing it in the crucible of real life, refining it under pressure, and teaching it to others so that the light of your understanding multiplies its reach. And beyond all of this, there lies the transformative power of thoughts, the quiet alchemy by which a single thought, repeated with conviction, becomes a force capable of bending reality. Your thoughts do not merely reflect your world. They create it through the action they compel and the emotions they mobilize. The right thoughts attract the right circumstances, as surely as the magnet draws iron filings. Therefore, you must guard them as you would guard the most precious treasure, because a careless thought is a seed sown in a field you have yet to harvest, and a negative thought is a weed that will overtake the entire garden if you do not pull it out by its root. Your thoughts must be chosen with the intelligence of a craftsman who selects the exact timber, the exact joint, the exact fit for a bridge that will carry a community across a chasm. And when you cultivate thoughts that are allied with your purpose, steady, disciplined, expansive thoughts that see possibility in every obstacle, these thoughts will drive your actions, your habits, and your life toward a horizon you can now begin to name. Now, you might wonder what keeps this river of momentum from turning into a flood that overwhelms you, what keeps the tempo from becoming a cacophony rather than the symphony it must become. It is the quiet, stubborn commitment to persist. Day after day, when the world is asleep, when you are tired, when the mood has fled and you must walk forward with the memory of your vow as your sole torch. Persistence is a daily ritual, a drumbeat that resets your heartbeat to the tempo of your goal. It is the act of showing up in the dark when nothing in the surrounding world seems to acknowledge your effort. And yet you show up anyway because you know that the dawn does not begin until the night has endured, and that the first light only arrives after the longest, most faithful vigil. Persistence does not demand instant miracles. It demands unwavering continuity, a willingness to stay in the game long enough to turn a spark into a conflagration. A great life emerges not from occasional bursts of enthusiasm, but from the stubborn, repetitive practice of showing up again and again until your very name becomes synonymous with reliability and capability. You will be tested not merely by external obstacles, but by the inner weather of your own mind. The inner weather is subtler than storms of wind. It is the weather of routine, of comforts, of distractions, of fear dressed in the language of reason. But you have been trained, in the quiet hours and the loud ones alike, to recognize that there is no victory in giving up and no glory in surrender. There is only a decision, one decision, repeated with discipline, until it becomes a law. You don't question. When you say, "I will not quit," You begin to act as if you have already won, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. You align your environment to your purpose. You prune the branches of your day that bear no fruit. You choose companionship that lifts you toward your summit. You delete the noise that would derail your focus, and you cultivate a surrounding that mirrors the order you seek within. The right environment is not a luxury. It is a vital instrument, a conductor that keeps your orchestra from slipping into discord while you move toward a new way of living. It is the difference between a life that remains a rumor and a life that becomes a demonstrated possibility in the lives of others. And so we arrive at the deepest paradox of freedom. That true freedom is found not in abandoning discipline, but in embracing it with a reverent zeal. The discipline of your daily rituals is the leash by which you guide your own forces. A leash you willingly place on your own neck, because you understand that the leash is the shield that prevents you from being dragged into the quicksand of half measures. Self-mastery is not a burden you bear to restrain your desires. It is the gift that liberates your desires to work for you with surgical precision, to channel your energy into acts that compound into outcomes you once believed were only possible for others. It is the paradox of power. The more you submit to the necessary discipline, the more you discover you are free to create, to choose, to act, to stand with unwavering integrity in a world that often tests integrity's value. This is not a cavil about austerity. It is a celebration of intentional living, of choosing a single luminous purpose and walking toward it with a confidence that grows with every breath you draw, with every obstacle you encounter, with every dawn you greet as a fresh page on which you will inscribe a more magnificent version of yourself. Now, if you have read this far and you have felt a tremor within your chest, a call you could not ignore, a vision you cannot deny any longer, know this: the freedom you crave is in your hands, because self-mastery already lives there, waiting to be awakened by your decision to begin anew, by your willingness to pay the price of consistency, by your readiness to turn every thought into a lever, every feeling into a function, every moment into a purpose-driven act. You are not waiting for the universe to grant you permission to act. You are declaring, in a voice that the universe cannot ignore, that you will not be diminished by the weather of life, that you will not yield to the siren calls of complacency, that you will build a life that stands tall in the face of time. You are the conductor, the craftsman, the pilgrim crossing a desert of distractions toward a promised oasis where your gifts are not only recognized, but required by the world that needs them most. You are the singer who uses sorrow to tune a higher harmony, the builder who uses the rough timber of limitation to forge a bridge that will bear not only your weight, but the hopes of those who watch you from below and dream of climbing alongside you. Now, listen to the voice within you that insists on action, that refuses to be silent in the face of hesitation. Begin now. Begin this very moment. Do not wait for a sign that the skies are clear or for someone to tell you that the road is safe. The road is never perfectly safe, and you do not need permission to walk it. You only need a decision that is louder than fear, that is louder than fatigue, that is louder even than the voice that tells you to slow down or stop. Decide with the seriousness of a master who knows that each decision is either a seed you plant in the soil of your future or a weed that steals light from that future. Decide with the calm confidence of a compass that has learned to ignore spin and turbulence and remains fixed on true north. Decide with the courage of a metallurgist who knows that the ore in you is malleable, and that through heat, pressure, and time, it becomes something stronger, more valuable, and far more enduring than the raw material you started with. If you will decide, and not merely decide in your head, but decide with every morning's routine, with every evening's reflection, with every choice you make in between, then you will begin to see the miracle of self-mastery emerge around you, like the first light stealing across a valley, like a single note expanding into a full chorus of possibility. Self-mastery is the real door to freedom, for it places your sovereignty where it belongs. in the center of your life, in the center of your time, in the center of your decisions. Freedom is not the absence of constraint. It is the presence of disciplined, purposeful constraint that you govern with a benevolent tyranny, the tyranny of your own highest self, the sovereign who does not yield to fear, who does not bargain away the long view for a moment's ease, who does not forget that every hour spent in service of your aim is a brick laid in the bridge that carries you across the abyss to the future. You will inhabit and gift to others. The world may tempt you with many crowns, but the crown you wear in triumph is the quiet coronation of a disciplined life, the life that understands its own capacity, that respects the power of thought to shape reality, that chooses to convert vision into action in every waking hour. And so, with all the authority of a voice that has seen the long line of those who rose through effort and faith, I say to you, begin now. Begin here. Begin with the simplest of steps, the step of setting the hour for a single meaningful task and keeping that hour sacred until it yields its fruit. Begin with a promise you will not break, a commitment you will renew again and again, a standard you will raise in your own eyes and in the eyes of others, until the day you realize that there is no higher freedom than the freedom to master yourself. If you will take this road, if you will embrace this discipline, you will arrive at a summit that is not merely a personal achievement, but a beacon for others who crave the same dawn you now carry within you. You will learn that your life's work is not a private demonstration, but a public invitation to those who would follow, to those who would join, to those who would contribute their unique gifts to the grand work of becoming fully alive. You will discover that your mastery creates an aura around you, a resonance of certainty that pulls opportunities toward you as if you carried a beacon that others cannot ignore. The circle of your influence grows not by chance, but by the exactness of your own behavior, by the quality of your choices, by the consistent fidelity of your commitments. The right people will be drawn to your rise, not by the lure of your words alone, but by the undeniable evidence of your daily life. The quiet evenings spent in study and reflection, the early mornings spent in rigorous practice, the conversations that push you to a deeper plane, the actions that prove your beliefs are more than theory. And as this ascent proceeds, you shall discover that freedom at last is not a distant plateau, but a living, breathing condition you carry with you wherever you go. It anchors you in the storm, steadies you on the climb, and invites you to extend your reach beyond what you believed possible. Self-mastery is the key that opens the caged doors of limitation, the ladder that climbs from the cellar of doubt to the balcony of possibility, the instrument by which you compose a life of character, service, and enduring influence. For in the final counting, it is not the applause of crowds, not the accumulation of wealth alone, not the status of being seen as successful by others that defines you. It is the quiet, relentless daily demonstration that you chose to become the kind of person who can be trusted with power, who can be relied upon to do the hard things, who can maintain integrity when no one is looking, who can sustain hope when the night seems endless. That is the true measure of freedom. The capacity to govern your own spirit so completely that you become a force for good that others choose to align with, a force that turns aspiration into achievement, a force that walks with humility and speaks with conviction, a force that finally makes the impossible not only plausible, but inevitable. Now, with these words as your map and this moment as your anvil, steel yourself for the next steps you will take, not as a distant plan, but as a living, breathing practice in the hours ahead. The dawn is not a promise. It is a consequence of your discipline. The horizon you seek does not arrive by accident. It is summoned by your courage to begin and your stubborn refusal to stop. Let me leave you with a final image that contains within it the whole truth. You stand before a vast dark corridor, the corridor of your life, and the moment you choose to light one small lamp and walk forward, that lamp becomes a beacon, That corridor begins to reveal itself, and footsteps echo until the entire expanse is illuminated by your resolve. You push through the door with a certainty that has grown from countless small acts of mastery, each one a stone laid along a path that others will follow, because you have shown what is possible when a human being chooses to master themselves. This is not merely a promise to yourself. It is a declaration to the universe that you have taken your birthright. You claim your rightful place. You will be the author of your consequences, and you will finish what you started with a spirit that cannot be broken and a will that will not be bent. Now, as the voice that has walked beside you through this long ascent speaks to you not as a distant mentor, but as a friend who knows the terrain of your soul, make the choice that will echo through every chamber of your life. I will master myself. I will govern my thoughts, train my habits, refine my knowledge, and meet every challenge with the quiet, steadfast energy of a person who knows there is no greater wealth than the freedom that arises from mastery. I will begin now, this moment, this breath, this decision, and I will persist until the mountains yield, until the desert yields, until the dawn you have imagined arrives in full light, and you stand on the summit of self, looking out with gratitude and the unshakable certainty that you are free, because you have chosen to be in command of the one thing you can never surrender, yourself. The mind, when trained, becomes a forge where every thought is a spark, and every spark can melt a barrier into a bridge. You have learned to treat attention as the single most valuable coin you possess, to spend it only on the projects that align with your definite purpose, to barter it away only for things that bring you one step closer to your true horizon. You have learned to root out the quick, shimmering temptations that glitter on the path yet lead you away from your real destination. The very moment you become aware that your focus is a living thing, you either feed it or you starve it. You either steward it or waste it. You either direct it toward the mountain or let it dissolve into the mist of trivialities that vanish with the dawn. The discipline of focus becomes a discipline of life itself. And as your focus tightens, your world narrows into clarity and purpose. Only a few essential tasks stand between you and your next peak, and you know exactly what you must do with them, and you do them with a patience that is also a fierce resolve. And what of the fear that all great climbers must pass? It is not conquered by denial, but by action, by the repeated exposure to the things you fear until your courage is anchored in experience rather than in promises. Each time you move through fear, you polynomial into a higher degree of certainty. You calibrate your sense of what you can endure. You discover that fear is merely a fog you can pierce with the blade of your own confidence, sharpened by the knowledge that you have faced this fog before, and emerged alive, more alive than before. More awake to the truth that you are not a fragile creature of chance, but a resilient artisan of your own fate. The more you act in the face of fear, the more your fear loses its teeth, and you begin to see that fear's job is not to deter you, but to educate you, to teach you the exact places where your preparation is insufficient, and to drive you to deepen your mastery in those very places. In this way, fear becomes a map, not a limit, a map that shows you exactly where you need to grow, exactly what you need to learn, exactly what you need to practice with more ferocity, until fear withdraws from your horizon and leaves behind a clear, bright line of possibility. The door of opportunity, which you now see opening before you, is not an open door offered to you by chance, but a door you have earned through painstaking, daily fidelity to your purpose and your principles. Each knock you land, timed with certainty, is a declaration to the universe that you have prepared yourself to step through, and not merely peek inside. The mastermind, that living circuit of minds, will not let you walk through unarmed. It arms you with ideas, with critiques, with partnerships that push your project beyond what you could have conjured alone. It teaches you to accept the truth that collaboration is not compromise, but amplification. that when minds are tuned to the same wavelength of intent, great waves of momentum arise, and you ride them with gratitude and humility, knowing you could not have reached here by solitary luck alone, but by a deliberate, respectful blending of your unique strengths with those of others who share your vision. This is not just how you build wealth or influence. It is how you build a civilization of purpose, a culture in which people rise through discipline, not through cunning, through the generosity of their results more than the noise of their claims. The power of thoughts is not a cottage industry in your mind, but the engine room, the whole plant where every cog is shaped by your belief and every shaft turns with your intention. You become a craftsman of your inner architecture, selecting thoughts with the discernment of a master builder, choosing the strongest timber, discarding the rotten, reinforcing the joints that bear the weight of your ambitions. You replace every petty thought that tyrannizes your day with a vision of uplift. You replace every complaint with a plan. You replace every sigh with a decision to act. And you watch as your life rearranges itself around the energy you invest in your highest purpose. It is not mere positive thinking in the face of reality. It is reality disciplined by thought, transformed by action, created by a mind that refuses to settle for less than the supreme expression of possibility it can conceive and then prove by doing. Now you stand, not at the end of this sermon, but at the boundary of a new chapter, a threshold you cross with the confidence of a traveler who has learned the terrain by long, careful study and by countless miles of walking the path before it was even a path for anyone else. The future you desire is not an illusion you chase from a distance. It is a type of life you craft with your hands, a life of clarity, order, and purpose, a life in which every breath is synchronized with your intention, every action an object of your deliberate, every moment a brick laid in the bridge that connects your day-to-day existence with your grandest dream. You begin to understand that the difference between those who merely aspire and those who actually arrive is not in the brilliance of their ideas at the outset, but in the unyielding persistence with which they move from inspiration to practice, from plan to execution, from wish to commitment, from potential to proof. And so, you answer the imperative that has always lived inside every soul that achieves something lasting. Begin now. Do not wait for the moon to align with your personal constellation. Do not wait for the stars to hand you a map. Do not wait for the world to applaud before you give yourself permission to advance. Begin with the simplest, most tangible act that aligns with your definite purpose, the act that will ripple outward and soften the days ahead with momentum. Perhaps it is a single daily discipline that you will not miss. Perhaps it is a decision to seek out one mind with whom you can share your purpose and receive feedback. Perhaps it is a commitment to teach another a principle you have learned, or to document a small, truth-telling progress log that you will consult at dawn and at dusk to remind yourself of what you owe to your future. Begin with that, and then begin again and again, until your habit becomes a force of nature, until your character becomes a fortress, until your life itself becomes a living demonstration that self-mastery truly is the only real freedom. If you are listening to these words and they reverberate within you as a clear note in a vast symphony, then you have heard the truth that you cannot ignore. You are the author of your own emancipation, the architect of your own liberty, the steward of your own power. Your freedom lies in your capacity to govern your own thoughts, to direct your own emotions, to choreograph your own actions in a way that serves the highest purpose you can conceive. And this is not a solitary journey. It is a pilgrimage that inspires others, a beacon that lights up the landscape for those who dare to follow. Your self-mastery becomes a public gift because it touches the lives of others. You demonstrate what is possible. You share the blueprint of your practice. You extend the hand to someone else who wishes to learn. You invite the world to join you in a shared ascent toward the same summit, where freedom is not a momentary windfall, but a sustained reality achieved by countless small, inviolable acts of mastery. This is not merely a philosophy to be admired. It is a discipline to be lived, a craft to be practiced until it becomes you, until your days align with a rhythm so precise that the world itself seems to lean in to hear your heartbeat and to witness the transformation you have chosen to enact with conviction and mercy. And so we end where we began, at the precipice of a new dawn, with the promise that the most profound revolution you can undertake is the revolution inside your own chest, the turning of a timid, uncertain organism into a disciplined, creative, fearless master of self. Self-mastery is freedom because it makes you independent of the whims that would disarm you, independent of the opinions that would chain you to the past, independent of the conditions that would otherwise define your limits. It is the daily choice to love discipline enough to let it refine your character into something reliable, something trusted, something that can shoulder the weight of responsibility for a life that matters. You will not be perfect, and the world will not demand perfection. What the world demands is your unwavering willingness to begin, again, again, and again, to recommit after every stumble, to redraw your plans after every misstep, to adjust your course after every new understanding of your own strength. In that willingness lies your power. In that perseverance lies your freedom. In that constant movement lies your destiny. And so I invite you, with the certainty that has moved countless seekers to the edge of